We're live.
Well, hello and welcome. I'm Wendy Rose Williams, and we're so thrilled to have you join us on the Waking Up Spiritually podcast. And I am a past life energy healer. I help people release energy that no longer serves them. Pain, anxiety, depression, stuck energy. And my website is wendyrosewilliams.com. And I'd like to turn it over to Gregg Kirk, my co-host, and he's going to introduce himself as well as today's topic, which kicks off a new series that we're excited about.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gregg Kirk, and I also do energy work, remote and in person. I do them via phone and Zoom for remote, and also I run online group healing circles every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. East Coast time, and also in the Connecticut region, I do fire circles. So these are ways to remove the blocks to your spiritual, physical, and energetic advancements. So speaking of all that, today we have a really fun, Wendy and I were kicking around some ideas for topics, and they didn't connect. Yeah, it didn't mesh. And then, so we just kind of sat with it. We thought, all right, well, we'll just still do this anyway. Maybe we'll just kind of channel our way through it. And then something came to me. I was always a big fan of the TV show Mythbusters, and this is a bit of a homage to that show. We're calling it Spiritual Myth Breakers. And the idea is to take these topics. Wendy and I will talk through them. At the end of each segment, we'll decide whether the myth is broken or confirmed. What's our conclusion? Thumbs up or thumbs down? And that's what we'll do. So.
And absolutely want to hear your thoughts on it too. And we have some new people who may be joining us for the program today as the Facebook Lives. We will check in for their comments if there's some live comments too. And you can also, in addition to listening to us live on Facebook at Waking Up Spiritually, you can visit our website at wakingupspiritually.com. Everything is archived there. And you can also visit our YouTube channel or subscribe on your favorite podcast app.
Yes. So here we are, Spiritual Myth Breakers, edition 1. Hopefully more to come. Yes. So Wendy had a great suggestion. In the early days, we had done this, this made a routine out of this, of a spiritual clearing and protection. So today we'd like to do that, continue that great tradition. So this is an invocation that I'm going to recite that I used for my energy sessions and healing circles and so forth. You can recite as much of this as you want. It's channeled. It's kind of built up over time. It started off as just a few sentences, but the idea is to declare our sovereignty and our protection. And so, without any further ado, here we go. I'd like to invoke all the guides, guardian angels, healing entities, and non-physical beings who have all of our best interests in mind to provide healing, guidance, and protection for everyone during this episode today. We are all sovereign beings practicing free will. We do not give permission for anything or anyone to enter our fields, our bodies, our consciousness, our sovereignty, or our lives in any way throughout all time, space, and dimensions, including the here and now. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, Gregg.
Yes. So here's our first slide. First topic for myth breakers. The topic or the phrase, the myth, quote unquote, is, you've probably heard this: life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. The idea being all experiences, even the most miserable, are ultimately pointing you to a better situation, a better outcome. So some people believe this, and other people say, I'd say the majority of the general population, when something quote unquote bad happens, something that looks like a disaster, like this guy, I don't know what happened to his ride. He missed his cab, or he's out in the rain. Everything looks like it's going wrong for him. That's a perspective. That's a limited perspective. Wendy and I, we get some channeled information, and the guides have always said to me, in a situation like this where you're out in the cold, it's raining on you, and everything seems to be going wrong, you're being realigned, and things are starting to work out in your favor. But during this process of the realigning, it gets really uncomfortable. And it's a pivotal situation when this is all going on, that you try not to fight it too much, because if you fight it, it can disrupt the good things coming to you. And you can stay in this fight or flight situation if you resist it too much. Wendy, what are your thoughts about this?
That makes a lot of sense, Greg. And we're not downplaying how hard some of these repositionings can be. But I think when you start to try and just slow down when things are falling apart, or it seems like they're falling apart, or not going the way we expected or wanted, it helps us move out of that victimhood and that martyrdom that can just being really powerless of,
Yes.
oh my goodness, things never work out for me. Well, guess what? You're creating more of that. Those are very dangerous words.
Yes.
Because you're just going to create more of it. So I think that the terms of it happening for you versus to you, it's a really big deal.
Yeah, the idea of life happening to you is a victimhood perspective, meaning, so when you're in that frame of mind, nothing's going your way. You need to get revenge on somebody who's done something wrong to you. You need to defend yourself against, the horrible forces in the world that are out to get you. So when you fight that, that's what I was saying earlier. If you fight that, look at Newton's third law of motion. It's for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So what does that mean? It means if some force is coming towards you and you try to give equal force against it, you try to oppose it, like these I don't know what they call these kinetic balls that people have in their offices, but when one ball swings and smacks the other one, and another one comes back and smacks it back, that keeps it going. So the idea is, the equal and opposite reaction, it keeps these opposing forces happening. So think about that. If you're in a situation in your life right now where this opposing force and you're fighting things that are coming your way, and you don't like where you are, this is what usually happens to me. Sometimes I'm not paying attention to what's going on in my life, and these things are coming at me, and I'm juggling things and trying to fight off certain things, and I stop and just think, wait a minute, I'm getting anxious right now. I'm not feeling good about where I am, so I don't like it here. So what do? These things are coming at me. I'm not going to resist them anymore. I'm going to give them the opposite of the energy that's coming towards me. And this will diffuse it, or this will help me align with what, and maybe understand what's really coming towards me. That's my personal thing. That's what I do. And it has worked. But I'd love to tell you that I do this all the time when it comes right at me, and I instantly do it like some sort of magical wizard, but I don't. It usually has
some incredibly evolved being who's never
right.
tired or frustrated,
right,
or
never gets upset. Now I have to be knocked on the head a couple times before it takes a few times to knock some sense into me to where I realize, oh, this stuff that I think is bad is really not bad. It's good stuff coming my way. I just need to calm down and wait for it.
Well, especially when it seems like the hits keep on coming.
Yes.
For instance, a Saturn return can be a really big example of a major shift that we need and benefit from, because it's helping align us with our purpose. But if you're age 28 to 30 or age 58 to 60, and you're going through one of those major Saturn returns, where Saturn returns to the same exact place in the sky where it was at the exact moment in time and location of your birth, it can be a real, a major change.
Right.
Major changes.
Right. So probably I just want to relate a quick experience that happened to me in 2018, not just me, my entire family. And just a real quick story. I had just published my book, and my whole family, I was taking my whole family to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, to do some book signing events, and we're really looking forward to it. And it was a long drive, like 4-hour drive, and we're driving. My wife and I are talking, and we're just talking about how much we love our house. And I said something like, yeah, there's just one room in our house I don't really like. It's our kitchen, but all the rest of the house, we really like it. Okay, blah, blah, blah. We go, we do the events, we come back, and the water line in our refrigerator burst while we were gone. So for an entire week, it just spewed water all over our kitchen, and then it caved in the floor and went down into our finished basement and affected our heating and air conditioning vents. When the people came in to look at the damage, they noticed that there was asbestos in the old heating vents. So
Wow.
long story short, what looked like a pretty normal disaster turned into a magnificent disaster.
Say multi-layers to that one.
Yeah. And even further than that, we had to leave our house for 3 months because they had to do the asbestos remediation. So I had to wrap our entire house in plastic, and nobody could be around during that time. So when all that was going on, it felt like a huge disaster. And that's the way I treated it. I didn't know what else to think, because whenever these kinds of things had hit me before, I just thought, oh, what? And I started doing this why me stuff. What did we do to deserve this crazy stuff? And then we relaxed about it. So the first thing that I knew something was going to be okay was when we hired a special representative to work with our insurance company, called a public adjuster. So if anybody ever has this kind of situation happen in your house, look up public adjuster in your area. They are like a lawyer. They're not, but they're a special representative for you with your insurance company. It helps you get a better deal. So that's so the public adjuster comes in, he sees the asbestos, he sees the caved in ceiling. And I said, well, my wife and I said we wanted a new kitchen. He goes, oh, you'll get a new kitchen. And I thought, oh, this guy's really going to get the grand, whatever the grand situation for us. And we ended up, so, without giving away the ending, the next thing he said, you're going to have to leave. You're going to have to go to a hotel. And I just thought, we're going to stay at Motel 6 for 3 months. This is going to be miserable. We have our dog. It's just going to be a horrible situation. No, they put us up in a hotel that was only a month old and is in the restaurant section of our town. And on top of it, because it had a little kitchenette, but they said the insurance paid for all of our meals. So we ate gourmet meals every night out that the insurance company paid for.
Oh my goodness.
It was like a vacation for 3 months. And then my wife's brother said, hey, you're in a hotel for 3 months. Get some points, get some airline points. And we did. And we ended up going to Paris later in the year for almost no money because of all the points we had.
That's
so it was
incredible.
Exactly. So it looked horrible on the outset. And I would love to tell you that I just surfed through this with, flying colors, but I didn't. I lost my cool a few times, but kind of like some things woke me up when the guy said, oh, you'll get a new kitchen. We have a lovely kitchen now. It's beyond what we could have afforded prior, because of the situation. And then the whole thing with the points, and it ended up being like a vacation for us. It happened over the summertime, and we had a lovely time. There was a street festival during one of the months that we brought our dog to. It was just, it was, I have good memories of it. So so that's what can happen if you just let it. I mean, I wasn't fighting it. I'll say that, because what could I do? The stuff happened. It was just like, all right, we're just going to roll with the punches. But anyway, that's just a quick story. If you want a further story, there is a book written by Michael Singer called The Surrender Experiment. This is the best document towards going with the flow that I've ever seen. So he lived the example of life happens for you. So in a nutshell, Michael Singer's book, he decided he wanted to be a hermit. And he was in his, I don't know, early 20s in the 1970s. He decided he was going to build a house out in the woods in Florida, just be away from everybody and just meditate all day and be away from everyone. And then during one of his meditations, he had the idea of, hey, life is happening in my favor. Anything that comes my way, even if it looks weird, I'm going to say yes to it. And this guy did it. And it's one of the most fantastic books I've ever read. It's documented. It gets a little, after a while, it gets repetitive because you see how many times he says yes to these situations that don't seem good. Like for instance, here's this guy with long hair living out in the middle of the woods in this house he built, a cool house out in the Florida forest, and a policeman shows up. This is during the days when cops, especially in the southern United States, they were beating up guys with long hair. They were, called hippies. So this cop shows up to his door, knocks on his door, and he thinks, oh no, something bad's going to happen to me. And the policeman says, hey, I really like your house. Can you build one for me? And, long story short, it turned into, he created a real estate and a construction contracting company out of this, and it made him a lot of money. And, he employed his friends, and they created these really cool houses, and they housed people, and people loved it. These are unusual houses. So that's just one example of the good things that happened to him, but
That's
it just
amazing.
goes on from there. And then, it finally, after about 12 of these, I started getting a little like, all right, I get it. You did a great job. But then something really, at the very end, something devastating happens to him, humiliating. And I'm not going to spoil the ending for you, but in the middle of one of the biggest crises that I can imagine anybody having, he writes another book called The Untethered Soul, which he's very well known for that book. So in the middle of his crisis, he writes another cool book about letting go and, letting life happen and being present. So anyway, that's my quick, if anybody ever needs proof and examples of life happening in your favor, if you let it, the surrender experiment is a multi-decade document of that. So.
And I believe that philosophy, that decision, if we can embrace that life is always happening for me, and the universe has my back, versus the opposite, that is going to be the biggest determinant of how our life goes.
Yeah.
I think it's so crucial. And like you said, Gregg, it doesn't mean that we don't need to practice. It doesn't mean that certain areas aren't easier to surrender into or to not be so ruffled by. Sometimes we're okay if it, gets challenging financially, or we're okay if a relationship big change goes on, or a housing change, or a job change. But, there's just like certain areas that can make you be really triggered. Often
Yes.
it's because you've got a lot of past life energy in that area to release.
Yeah.
So it's giving you the opportunity to do that.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that it feels good in the moment. So this is a wonderful resource to have those two books to go to, or please let us help you. Gregg and I are not theory people. We have been in the thick of it many, many times, and would just love to give you a helping hand.
Yes. And there's one last graphic for those of you who are able to watch this through video. I just want to point out, it's down in the lower right. It shows two guys sitting in like a pit, and the narrative is, this is about the two choices life gives every person. Either you sit and sulk and dwell on how unfair life is to you, or you could try and figure out how to make the bad situation work in your favor. So one guy's just sitting there in the pit, woe is me, and then the other guy is figuring out how to dig steps to get out. So that's, I guess the point is, so we should come to a conclusion. Is life happening to you, or is life happening for you? And my conclusion is maybe a little wishy-washy. I mean, obviously, I'm in favor of life happening in your favor, but it's kind of about, it's not kind of, it's about your perspective. So life will happen to you if that's what you believe, right? If you don't practice, it's the best thing you can do is read Michael Singer's book about how he practiced it and just look at what the opportunity is. So I guess really my conclusion on this is life has opportunities, and life can happen in your favor if you let it. And it
Right.
certainly won't happen in your favor if you don't let it, or if you don't believe it can.
I reached the same conclusion, Greg, and because it's really, this is a powerful free will choice of how we're going to look at and what our actions and behavior are going to be. And this poor dude sitting in the bottom of the pit that's just overcome with it all. Personally, if something really, really challenging happens to me, for instance, when I was laid off from a job in 2017 that I really liked, just had planned on staying there through retirement, and it was a very important financial flow for not only myself, but for my two daughters who were in college, and I was single. But when I got laid off from that job, what I chose to do purposefully was to have a pity party for myself for the full weekend. And then on Monday, I would start to take constructive action, and I would start to update people and would share it with my family then.
Right.
But I think that was a healthy way to handle it,
Mhm.
because if you just suppress the emotions, if you suppress and stuff it down, you can just get so stuck
Yeah.
in that place. So I purposefully said, well, I know what I'm doing this weekend. It's pity party time.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I gave myself a time limit. It's like, okay, it starts Friday at 5 o'clock and it's finished Monday, 9 a.m. And I'm going to feel every feeling I can feel from this over the weekend.
very
And
good.
Monday,
Yeah.
I processed a lot of it.
Yeah, that's what I've been getting when it comes to, energy sessions or healing sessions with patients. Is the guys are always saying to us is, it's all right for you to get mad. In fact, you're supposed to get mad, or you're supposed to be upset. You're supposed to experience that first stage, but you can stay there and then you're going to be miserable. But the
Right.
next stage out of, so the first stage is before that is actually victimhood, where when you first got the news that you were laid off, you're like, oh my God, I'm a victim. I don't know how long that lasted, but usually that's usually pretty brief, because it's usually after that, the reaction is, oh, they did it to me, or I'm mad, or, oh no, woe's me, financial stuff is happening. But you're supposed to go through that. The next phase after that is hope. And then once you get into the hope phase, it's gratitude, because then good things start happening. So those are the steps that we have the opportunity to take. I was going to say we're supposed to take, but no, you can do whatever you want. And those who want to practice mastery, those are the steps that are available for you, and your life will be so much easier. But you can hang out like the guy in the pit if you want, as long as you want. So, all right, well, let's move on. So that's our conclusion is, yes, life is happening for you under the certain circumstances, but for those who maybe are not aware, and a huge chunk of the population, life is happening to them, and that's all. It's more of a perspective situation. Okay, we're going to move on. Topic number 2. Everyone is capable of psychic abilities. Humans are born with the innate ability to channel, intuit, and perceive unseen things. So I'd say probably a big chunk of the population doesn't believe, well, some people don't even believe psychic abilities are real. And
It is a large continuum here. Yes.
right. And then there's another group of people who believe they're real and that only special people have those abilities. And then there's another chunk of people who thinks, I'll say I'm one of these people, that everybody's born with these abilities. And I'm going to go to the next slide, because I'm going to just the bottom quote here is one I came up with. Everybody is born with the ability to swim, but some never learn, while others compete in the Olympics. I'd say the same thing with
Oh my gosh, what a summary that is.
psychic abilities. Same thing, right? So,
That's brilliant. And
right.
to
So,
me, I was going to say it's like a muscle that you're going to choose if you're going to work with it and develop it
yeah.
or not. And see, there it is said, so succinctly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just to talk through that a little bit, you're born with the ability. You come into the world with strong psychic abilities, and then life happens, then you go through conditioning and so forth. And you can be taught that psychic abilities are not real. And then you won't do anything about them until maybe you'll have some sort of supernatural experience, and then they'll be triggered, which is what happened to Wendy and me. So we weren't lucky enough. I know people who they started feeling their abilities early on, when they were young. And actually, I don't know if that's even that everybody who's had those experiences have reported them as being kind of uncomfortable because, they're having interactions with spirits when they're younger, and their parents think, they're hearing voices, and, and then some people are misdiagnosed as having mental illnesses and things like that. So anyway, maybe we, Wendy, you and I got it a little easier where we were able to get through the teen years and the college years and everything. And then before we were kind of awakened. Is that what your experience was? No?
Mine were there as a preschooler and
Oh,
were
okay.
completely squelched. And I had experiences through junior high and high school that were very, very frightening to me because I had no way to normalize them.
Okay.
And it wasn't like nowadays where you can Google and you can find quality programs.
Yeah.
And you can find quality information on it. So what happened to me in a sentence was I met someone in junior high who I'd then go through high school with, and I knew he was going to die before the end of high school.
Wow.
And it was very uncomfortable information to carry for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
He
Whoa.
died 3 days before we graduated.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So I didn't know that. I knew enough of your story that you were kind of maybe resisting your gifts until later years, and
I
then
shut them down. It was like,
right.
oh, no, don't want to know this.
Okay.
And now just to make fun of myself a little bit, because you have to lighten up after that moment.
Right.
And let's be real, he chose that lifetime.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was carefully chosen and planned and script, because I certainly knew it was coming for that amount of time. So many,
Right.
many people. So again, not victims, a brave choice, a specific choice for a reason.
Right. Yeah.
So, maybe he'd lived until he was 100 the previous lifetime.
Yeah.
But this time I'm going to go in the blaze of glory, and, family and friends are going to have to process things related to it.
Mhm.
But when I did finally really open my clairvoyance, which is the psychic ability to see, I was into my 50s, and my guides, I could hear them quite well, but
Yeah.
the clairvoyance kind of came last for me because it frightened me because I didn't like seeing things.
Right.
And the guides kind of smacked me gently on the shoulder after it was done. And they said, that was only a little bit harder than rolling the tomb away after Jesus passed the light to get your third eye to open. It was like,
Right.
I could feel it like going across my forehead. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
I
I knew
back up, and then they gently made fun of me.
I knew that part of your story. I didn't know you were
Didn't
getting.
know why I closed it down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know a lot of people that have done the same thing because
Yes,
it was too
absolutely.
frightening or confusing.
Frightening or confusing, or they're afraid they'll be labeled or misunderstood or be penalized, as you said, mistaken,
yeah.
labeled as mentally ill or different or weird or whatever it might be.
Yeah, let's face it. When we're in school, we want to be liked, and we want to have friends, and we want to be thought of as like them. We don't want to be outcast or unusual. And when nobody else is seeing or hearing spirits, and then even worse, they might think that you're crazy or whatever, some kind of weirdo, then yeah, of course you're not. That you push those down. That's
Right,
what
right.
happens. Hopefully nowadays there's less of that going on. I know, so my daughter, well, so let's face it, she grew up in a family where this is what I was doing, and she knew it, and she's interested in it. So there was a period of time when I was doing some in residency healing sessions. I would come back every Saturday and have dinner with my wife and daughter, and they would just sit down and say, okay, what happened today? What wild thing happened today? Because some wild stuff was happening every time, because I would do like 5 sessions in a row, and and this crazy stuff would be going on. And they were fascinated by it, which is
And
great.
it's truly normalizing in a healthy way, this
Yes.
wide range. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's what Greg and I are here for with Waking Up Spiritually.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
to help you separate the wheat from the chaff, because yes, you do have to make decisions, and you do have to be discerning of what is for you and what is not aligned with you, and just to get clarity around those things.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'd just like to say that some of her friends had come forward with having psychic abilities, and we supported them.
I was going to say, I'm sure that made you a beautiful touchstone that was very needed.
Yeah. So that's cool. Anyway, I just want to give some people some solid ground to stand on with the whole idea of psychic ability. So that for those, there's probably nobody, hopefully there's not too many people watching this thinking that psychic abilities don't exist. You're on the wrong broadcast if you think that. But if you're got one foot in both worlds, where you're like, well, I think maybe psychic abilities is only something that really strong adepts and wizard like people,
Harry Potter,
Harry Potter type stuff, right? But
where there's the Muggles, or the humans with really no abilities, was
right,
the way they separated the world pretty harshly.
exactly. So, but I would just like to point this out, that a study was done in 2011 by Cornell University professor Dr. Daryl Bem, and this is a famous study. It seemed that, according to that, it seemed to prove that ESP and other psychic phenomenons may be real. So I got this from a mainstream post. The paper, this is a lovely, it just rolls right off the tongue. The paper is called Feeling the Future, Experimental Evidence of Anomalous Retroactive Influences on Cognition and Affect. The study reported on 9 experiments involving over 1,000 participants. So that's a great test.
Good size study.
Good size study, with 8 of them strongly supporting the notion of precognition, where individuals seem to gain information or energy transfer that no physical or biological process we know of says that we should have. So in other words, it's psychic abilities. They're getting information in a way that can't be explained through traditional scientific methods. Mm-hmm. Cool. So that's a milestone for us here, in this modern lifetime, that a study like that exists, that the studies at the University of Virginia, where they've got more than almost 3,000 probably now documented cases of past life, real past life, confirmed past life situations. So so the veil is starting to loosen up a little bit in some belief systems. But so Wendy, what do we call this one? Everyone's born with psychic abilities. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I give it a thumbs up, but I think that final quote just nails it, that everyone's born with the ability to swim, but some don't learn because they deny the abilities. They're frightened of them. They just can't find a way to normalize them. They're not interested, while others, oh my goodness, just become rock stars and
right.
compete in the Olympics, and maybe doing so spiritually, that they become spiritual leaders. They publish amazing books, whatever they might do.
Agreed. Let's move on to our final one. So the final topic here, Karma is the universe's punishment. Karma is the concept of deeds equal consequences. So this is how I was first introduced to the idea of karma. So you've heard of, I've even heard people saying, oh, you've got bad karma. Some people have good karma. Some people have bad karma. Have you heard people?
I've heard that certainly. And I've also heard another, what to me is a misconception regarding karma, of people trying to curse others with karma and saying, oh, karma is going to get you.
Oh,
And I can't wait for karma to get you. And
so
it's like,
karma is
no,
like the RoboCop of the universe. Like, it's just going to come at you with your guns blazing if you do something bad, right?
right.
That's the idea. Yeah. So that's how I was first introduced to the idea of karma, that it's like eye for an eye. If you do something bad to somebody, something bad's going to happen to you directly. And in fact, I think John Lennon has a song called Instant Karma. So and that's like the idea of, if I go out in the street and punch somebody in the eye, that later that day, I'm going to get punched in the eye instantly,
Extremely literal.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Greg, I wonder if as human consciousness has been raising, because if we think of Lennon, back in the early and mid 60s, we've had a lot of changes since then. So I wonder if that's how karma was being used, at the time, as like a more retribution.
Yeah, I think so. And for the longest time, that's how I understood karma to be. However, I always refer to my favorite book series about these kinds of things, The Law of One, the raw material. And here is what they have to say, remembering that Don Elkins, who was the questioner, these raw beings would come through Carla Ruckert. She was the person who was lying in a meditative state. He would ask these beings who would come through her certain questions. And he asked about karma. And whenever the raw beings responded, they would always say, I am Ra. So this is what they said, I am Ra. Our understanding of karma, and I'll just read it. Our understanding of karma is that which may be called inertia. Inertia means no energy. Those actions which are put into motion will continue using the ways of balancing until such time as the controlling or higher principle, which you may liken to your braking or stopping, is invoked. This stoppage of the inertia of action may be called forgiveness. These two concepts are inseparable. So let me translate that for you. This is why it's so difficult to get through the Law of One. It's like reading
I'd like the decoder ring, please.
Old English. Yeah. So the point is, fascinating idea. Their idea of karma is inertia, meaning no energy. So in a normal life, energy is passing through you. Experiences are going through you. But Wendy and I always say that when we are trying to help somebody who has energy blockages, we look for the blocks and we get rid of the blocks. Well, you could say that karma forms a block, inertia, non-moving energy. And that this will happen until one thing stops the inertia from happening: forgiveness. So the idea is, if somebody does something bad to you, there's going to be a balancing happening. Bad things are going to happen to both of you until you forgive. And everything that I've learned about forgiveness is you forgive the other person and you forgive yourself for feeling bad things about them.
Which is setting yourself free.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't matter if the other person is still alive or not, or if you're still in touch, it doesn't matter, because you're balancing up that energy through love and forgiveness. You're raising your vibration.
Right. So in the way of actions and consequences, there is a bit of that going on, but to make a finer point, the raw beings in the Law of One say it's not punishment, it's inertia. So it doesn't even matter if it's an action that somebody took, like we're using the most profound, like somebody hit you or something, but it could just be something, maybe somebody said something to you that upset you, and that can stop your energy. That can create a block, So forgiveness is the key. Forgiveness unlocks that energetic flow for both of you. And there seems to be a lot of entanglement with karma. It's like they say, it takes two to tango. I don't know that karma can be created just for one person, without some sort of an interaction. That seems to be the way it is. You agree with that?
I agree. It doesn't have to be tit for tat, meaning
Yeah,
you don't have to balance up the karma with the same exact person.
right.
Because you may not meet them that lifetime, or they may not, play their part. They may not trigger you, but someone else will trigger you so that you get to complete the lesson, because
Yeah.
it's stuck energy, it's unbalanced energy,
Yep.
and you're not progressing in a certain area.
Yep. Now I'm going to introduce an idea of karma that I was not familiar with until I read Dolores Cannon's book. And she has a slight variation or a different kind of definition of karma. She agrees with everything the raw beings say, but she also says this, that her definition of karma is extends to earthly attachments. Okay, so energies that humans conform to people, places, or things. This force can trap people into repeating cycles and even lifetimes. It can precipitate stuck earthly spirits. So this is all about stuck energy. So if you form too strong of an attachment to a person, or even to a place. So let's use the example of place. So ghosts, right?
You took me right to ghosts from when
Right.
you said the first 4 words.
Right.
I was like, now we're explaining the repetitive nature of ghosts who are overly
Attached to a house. Haunted
place.
houses. Why do we have haunted houses? They're attached to that place, that actual house. There's something about it that they're not letting go of. They became so attached. Yeah, emotions are involved that they don't want to leave it. And in fact, they usually don't even know that they passed on, and they just continue repeating cycles in that situation. It can happen with people, and it can happen with things, actual objects. Well, that's the house is an example. So that's an interesting idea. So this is about a detachment situation. So this is like the detachment part of karma, where you got to let yourself go, let the person, place, or thing go. So then, because if you don't, especially when it's time for you to pass, you can get stuck in the earthly plane, right? Or you'll either repeat the cycle, or if it's a profound attachment, you'll become a stuck spirit, like a ghost or something like that.
Yes, and absolutely. That's the subject of my second book, the Flow One, Plymouth Plantation. So look on Amazon if that feels pertinent to you. Look on Amazon under Wendy Rose Williams, under books, and you will read the story of a ghost that didn't go home for over 300 years.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Yes, because that spirit is supposed to move on and take another life elsewhere. And so it's a disruption of humanity, for humanity's energy when that happens. So so with that in mind, how do we not become stuck, attached to things? Famous author C.S. Lewis has a great quote: "Don't let your happiness depend on something you may lose." Well, guess what? You're going to lose everything in your life, because you're going to pass, you're going to die, So
Did he write Alice in Wonderland?
Yes, yes, he did.
Because that's a pretty far out book. And I think he was, had a lot of energy.
Oh, no. Sinclair Lewis wrote Allison.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Wrong Lewis.
Yeah. He wrote Babbitt and a lot of other books.
Okay.
Yeah. So another one, this is a quote from Rumi, the 13th century Persian spiritual teacher. "Spiritual maturity is gained when we stop attaching happiness to material things." That's more or less the same idea. And then here's another one from, this is an ancient quote from Krishna, the Hindi god, the Hindi deity. "Have a family, a house, but do not be caught up in it or take shelter behind it. When death comes, go empty-handed, alone, unafraid, without a tremor, and there will be light," Krishna says, "a tremendous light. If not, you will be right back." That's probably the best example of how not to be a stuck spirit. How to leave, I wish I could find
Let it go.
yeah, the Egyptians, there's I should find this image, but the Egyptians have these scales, and on one end of the scale is your heart and the other is a feather. And the idea is you can go to the afterlife if your heart is as light as a feather. So how would your heart be heavy? By having all this karma, all these attachments. So let it all go. You come in unencumbered to life, that's the way that's the way you should leave. But we have choices.
Right.
But I think we're all coming around to some ideas about how to be better at this life thing. So let's let go of the things that I've done this practice myself. I think of the things that I love in my life. And that may sound crazy to some people, my family, my house, my dog, whatever. And then I think about them gone, because they're going to be gone at some point, and if you let them go, the grieving process will not be, don't misunderstand me. I don't want them to go, but I don't want to be wrecked if any of them leave. And the more I think we all can prepare ourselves for these situations, not in a morose way, in a free-flowing way of non-inertia, letting the energy flow. It's a topic that Wendy and I talked about a couple episodes ago.
It's a controversial one. It's hard to express well in that area, Gregg.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting topic.
Loving detachment is what you and we've talked about this before.
Right.
Can you still love something? Well, it's the old, if you love something, set it free. That's really what you need to do with yourself too. You love everything in your life, but let it, don't be attached to it. Let it flow. Because if you don't, massive grief, being upset. And, I'll say this, like with our house, I was upset when all that terrible thing happened, but my daughter was the one who pointed out. We came back to the house when it was under construction, and we had spent probably maybe 2 months in the hotel, and we were having actually a really good time at that point. And she said, "Dad, I thought I was going to miss our house more." And I thought, oh, yes, I did too. And she was already becoming detached to our house, not in a way that she didn't want to come back or anything, but it was a really good exercise for us to experience.
Well, she realized that her home, because of her age and because the love and support and the unit that the three of you are, she already had her home with her.
Yes.
It wasn't those particular four walls. It was, she was with her mother and her father and her dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you're describing too of letting go, it's not like shortcutting grief, but what you're describing, that loving detachment, that balance, I think that allows us to be more grateful and have more appreciation for loved ones, as well as a home that is sheltering us and providing things for us, or a beautiful place in the woods, or whatever it might be. And I think you're also describing something that will allow you to be more present and more in the moment when you have that, when you have detachment, because the detachment or the attachment can be when we start to get on the crazy train of, well, I need it this way and it's got to be this way, and you're getting like overly attached to, you're trying to just control things that can't be controlled and shouldn't be controlled. Exactly. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. And on top of that, I would just like to say that, true love, I've heard this, true love is not possessive, and meaning romantic love, but I would say true love of any kind, love of your house or your material things. Don't be possessive of them. I think in terms of the Native Americans. They didn't believe that people could own property and earth. They were very transient. A lot of them, were nomads, and they just moved around, and they did not become attached to everything so much as, it's a cultural thing for sure. Right. I mean, we live in a very consumption-based society, so it's easy to get bogged down with with material things and valuing them and so forth. But
Right.
but
And another great example, I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
no, I was finished.
And another great example is it's not wise to become overly attached to our children and quote, how they're going to turn out
Yeah.
and what they're going to do, because our job is to just do our best with them and for them, but to teach them resiliency and to teach them independence. I mean, our job is to help them launch and help them out of the nest in a way that they're going to be happy and contribute. It's not our job to smother them or helicopter them and clip their wings so that they have to stay with us. That's not making sense.
Agree 100%. So where do we call this? What do we call this? Karma is the universe's punishment. Thumbs
I
up.
disagree. Thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Agreed.
Correct.
Wendy. Yeah. All right. Well, this was fun, Wendy. We'll definitely have to do this again.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd just like to add one thing before we do our wrap-up slide here. Please visit my website, which is wendyrosewilliams.com, because I am offering a complimentary life purpose workshop 2 days from now on Wednesday, July 12th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And you're so welcome to sign up and come to that. What is my purpose? And am I understanding my purpose? Am I embracing it? Is one of the top questions that I get, and I think you get too, Greg. So that's why I'm doing a complimentary workshop on that. And I also have changed my business model, and I'm now offering every other week half-hour group Zoom sessions where we do Q&A together regarding energy healing. So those dates are also announced on my website. So check it out for those reasons. And let's wrap up.
Okay. Join us August 21st for the next Waking Up Spiritually podcast. Check us out on our Facebook group under Waking Up Spiritually. Don't forget to go to our website to see all of our past episodes. You can go there at wakingupspiritually.com and click the broadcast link. We've got more than 50 episodes, 3 years worth of them. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, Waking Up Spiritually. I've noticed when I do a search for Waking Up Spiritually, it helps to mention one of our names, like Waking Up Spiritually Gregg Kirk or Waking Up Spiritually Wendy Rose Williams. Then you'll see our channel.
To get to the right link.
It'll go right to it. And then, of course, we're on the podcast apps, especially Apple iTunes. So check us out there. And please come visit my website at greggkirk.com. That's GREGGKIRK.com. Check out the events link. Reach out to me on requesting an appointment. And check out my book, The Gratitude Curve. It's on the website as well. And then, of course, Wendy just mentioned her website, wendyrosewilliams.com. And she's written a number of books, and check out her new events that she's got going on.
And Greg, before we wrap, let's check the Facebook Live if we're able to, or perhaps I can do that from my phone, just to see if there's any questions from people who might be listening live, just so we don't miss those. So let me look here real quick. And Greg, any other special events for you? I know you always have marvelous things going on. Look here real quick.
Oops. Okay, so we do have a number.
I'm seeing a number of comments. So if you're able to get those, to bring those up.
Okay. Bruce says, this morning in the sauna, I randomly started singing, "Put Me in the Hole, the Hole Gets Bigger."
Oh, just like that poor guy in the pit.
Right, exactly. A huge connection to him. Just okay. Okay, yeah, that was Bruce having fun with our graphic. That's all I'm seeing. But thank you, Bruce, for commenting. Also, I just want to let everybody know, yes, our Facebook group is one area where you can ask us questions in real time. If you want to comment on any of our past episodes, you can do that on YouTube or on our website. At the very bottom of every episode on our website, there's an area where you can comment. So please feel free. We love to hear from you. We love to hear any topic ideas you've got. So in any of those areas, Facebook, YouTube, or our website, please let us know any topic ideas. So
And we will be doing a special episode in addition to the monthly one on August 21st. We'll be doing a special episode on Friday, July 21st. You'll see more information from us regarding that. July 22nd is Mary Magdalene Day. So on July 21st, we'll be doing a special episode where I will be channeling Magdalene, and would just love it if you'd join us for that. And Gregg may have some insights too, and will be helping hold that amazing energy from Ascended Master Mary Magdalene and asking some questions. So if you've got questions for her, certainly you're welcome to submit them in the Waking Up Spiritually group or in any of those other locations Gregg mentioned.
all right, everyone. Thank you all. This was a lot of fun. We'll see you
Thank
in
you
August.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.